what I'm supposed to be doing, like truly doing the DTD too. And by the way, I still need to call you and Heather this week. I was gonna call you earlier because you're on my AWs,
Okay.
but you guys were in Disney, so.
That's okay.
So, so just, and just putting, you know, following like everything and just building it up, it's like everything that I've been training these people and talking and preaching, it's like now I can do. So,
I remember that feeling.
yeah,
I was waiting when I went back into production.
yeah, so I'm having fun, and like very, like, eye on the prize type thing. So, you know, now that we're in this challenge, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna get this listing, I'm like, I still have to post a couple things, I've sent a couple note cards, I've gotta do all this stuff, and then I wanna just keep it up after that, you know? But I wanna get my brain into Cody Gibson, one contract a week when he first started. You know, so I'm doing 2 open houses tomorrow, I keep going back to my pipeline and revisiting, I may, through lead generation, I may have a buyer already for this short sale.
Okay.
So, I haven't reached out to him, but it's right up, it's exactly what he told me he was looking for. So we'll see, so it's fun.
Good.
You know, I don't have the stresses of chasing, you know, but the part that I'm passionate about, I can still help people.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's fun. Well, and we got done with transmittal it. One little step.
nice, thank God. Golly. Cause I know you, I mean, you'll, you need to do, you're not. I mean, because ultimately, at the end of the day, it makes you look bad, and it's
Yeah.
the people that are handling your finances that you're assuming, I'm looking at it, you're showing you reported it. Okay. Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't need anything?
Nope.
I'm gonna be
Squared
honest.
away. Okay, good. You better be. 10 minutes. No, you're good. I'm waiting for Meg to jump on anyway.
You do an opening. Hey guys, everyone. Today here a real talk series.
Welcome back to Real Talk with Top Talent. Today, I get to sit down with somebody whose story is all about transformation and breaking through what most people think is impossible. And more. Oh, let's go.
I'm excited.
Oh, yeah. Today with Meg Daday. There you go, McKenna. I'll make you co-host.
Thank you.
I texted Meg, and she didn't answer me. She was supposed to be on 5 minutes ago.
Talk about it. I had a bigger team earlier this year, and I kind of let everyone, I just basically dismantled it because I realized, so I was for a long time in the Gary Keller, like top individual
Yeah,
mastermind.
the
And
top 100 or something like that.
yeah, so there's a team in group one, and then there's just for individual agents. And so the threshold for individual agents is about 500,000 GCI. So I was like the #1 individual agent for the Mid-America region for 3 or 4 years. And then I decided I want to build a team. So I brought on a director of ops, a marketing and events coordinator, a buyer agent, and saw firsthand how much more profitable it is to be
Yeah,
a very highly leveraged individual agent. And so I just am going back to that, and I'm not looking, like my goal right now will close somewhere between 50 and 55 units this year. And I want to do
nice.
the exact same next year and just
I love
keep
that.
it extremely lean. So
Yeah.
not really looking to grow. I'm trying to just get more profitable.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna let everybody in here.
cool.
Mass people. All right. Awesome, awesome. How's everybody doing?
Good
Feel
morning
good
or
morning.
afternoon, I guess.
That's true. Yeah, it's 1 o'clock here, so it's what, 11 over where you are?
Yes. Noon in
Beautiful.
Chicago. I'm currently in Boulder.
Love it, love it. Um, Okay, so yeah, so we would definitely want to respect your time and respect everybody else's time. So, guys, I am so excited to introduce the person we're talking to today. She is amazing, and I just wanted to welcome you all back to Real Talk with Top Talent. Uh, you know, Today I get to sit down, and we get to sit down with somebody whose story is all about transformation and breaking through what most people think is impossible. Meg Daday went from, some debt to building one of Chicago's top real estate brands while reinventing herself, her mindset, and her business. We're going to dive into some of her habits and limiting beliefs, even some micro events that shaped her journey. And I promise this one is a conversation you guys will want to, make sure to hold on to and take a lot of notes, even ask questions at the end. So without further ado, Meg Daday, everybody.
That is an amazing introduction. I might have you send that to me because I wouldn't
I
be able to
will.
introduce myself that well. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I have learned my first ever team meeting, we had an OP, and I was like, this is Bob. And he was like, please give me a better introduction. So I have learned.
All the feedback is a gift, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. So welcome.
Thank you. So I got started in real estate in 2015. I was an attorney prior to that and practiced law for like 8 years. And throughout that time, as an attorney, I had a ton of student loans. 100, I think I graduated law school with 150,000 in student loans. And my last job as an attorney was as associate general counsel for a startup that was a really fun place to work. There was literally a slide in the office, and they did mud run obstacle course races all over the country. So it was like the best law job that existed in Chicago, mainly because it kind of met my two criteria of I could wear jeans every day and they had unlimited Diet Coke in the office. Like my threshold was kind of low. But throughout that time, I, was living a great life in my 20s and 30s in Chicago, going to bachelorette parties, spending all the money. And so then in honestly, like right around now, 2014, the company decided they no longer needed two attorneys. And so I was pretty unceremoniously let go from what had been my dream job. And I had a ton of debt. I had no idea what I wanted to do other than I definitely did not want to go back to a law firm. And so I took kind of that experience of working for an events company and reviewing contracts for everything from porta potties to the Foo Fighters, and realized like it wasn't the reviewing contracts for 12 hours a day that I enjoyed about that job. It was the strategy and negotiation. So that's kind of how I got started in real estate, was realizing that I could take that brand strategy and like my experience networking for almost 10 years as an attorney and put that to work for my own kind of like little color or okay, I saw the word color coded library. Yes, those Clio bookshelves. And put those kind of like marketing and negotiation skills to work for myself.
Awesome,
Um,
awesome.
yeah. Do you want me to
That's
just keep going?
amazing. Yeah, yeah, feel free. This is all about you. I just I wanted to mention, I didn't even notice that your background was color coded, so that's awesome.
It's, I like organization. At least, I would say my house and my office are very much like very pretty on the outside, and then you open the junk drawers and it's not always as pretty on the inside, which is a perfect metaphor for everyone's business. Like my business is the same way. On social media, it looks great. And what I want to get into today is kind of like that messy junk drawer of behind the scenes. Real estate is really hard, and there's a lot to do between marketing, serving clients, keeping track of administrative things, paying your taxes. So, yeah, I'm excited to kind of dig into that with you guys.
So we're very excited too, and we'll definitely touch base with marketing and behind the scenes. We love that. But first, I want to ask, because we all have limiting beliefs, and we all carry it, limiting beliefs that hold us back. So I just want to know, what were some of yours personally and professionally, and then how did you end up breaking through them?
I think a big one when I first started in real estate was I didn't even know I was getting into a sales role. I had done law for 8 years and I was a teacher for a couple years before that. So the idea of like I literally remember, interviewing at different offices and not grasping the fact that I would have to lead generate or prospect for clients. I just
Mm.
thought they would come to me because I had a great network. And so I think the limiting belief was that like I'm an introvert and I don't really want to be calling people up and asking if they want to buy or sell real estate. So I had to figure out a way to get around that and put kind of like the business to work in a way that worked well for my personality.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned, kind of in the beginning, what did you do when you first got into real estate? How did you, build up your database and your clientele?
Yeah, so I had spent about almost 10 years just going to networking events, and they were kind of the stiff attorney networking events where you get a couple drink tickets and everyone's wearing suits, standing around, having kind of boring conversations. And I continued to go to those for, well, I still sometimes do, but so I never kind of gave that up, but I realized that what I was looking for was something totally different. And I knew that other people who were in a similar situation as me wanted something that was like a little bit more fun. And so I started looking around at who was I already working with and who did I love working with. And that was for me, a lot of professional women. So at the time,
Mhm.
I was, this is 10 years ago, I was in my mid 30s and they were single. They felt like everyone else was getting married around them and they had nothing to show. They have a great job, but they've got like nothing to show for it. So I realized that I had at the time like one dream client avatar. And
Mhm.
while I still work with everyone, now our marketing is designed to attract those people to me and to us. And that really started. So I switched from a local brokerage. I started at a local brokerage and then switched to KW in 2018. And that was really when I started kind of like honing in on a lot of these things, was just getting more specific and narrowing down who I was really trying to speak to through events and social media and our marketing.
I love that. And those drink tickets went to Diet Cokes, right?
Exactly. Well, still some drink tickets, even though I don't drink anymore. But yeah, so I I realized that instead of trying to serve everyone, I needed to serve the people who I really loved working with And Seth Godin has a great quote, like, if basically if you if you serve the smallest viable audience, then they'll and delight them so thoroughly they'll tell the others. It's not the exact quote, but basically that if you get your services so honed in for
Mhm.
this one specific audience, then those that will all translate to everyone else, and those professional women will tell their friends. And so what I realized was, so I started honing in on the professional women, and um, they were similar to me at the time, 28 to 35, single, you know, worked in law, consulting, tech, um, a variety of other industries. They're super type A. Like, I know so much about them now. A lot of them were freezing their eggs because they were still single and didn't want to be.
Mhm.
They just had like on our buyer consultation calls, they would say things like, I want in-unit laundry, because a lot of rentals in Chicago don't have in-unit laundry. They would say, I have my eye on this couch, but I've just been kind of waiting until I feel more settled. And so there was this sense of like they had been waiting for a partner or something to like make this purchase. And so I really started to make marketing around the fact that like you can do this on your own. You don't need to wait for
Mhm.
someone else to buy that couch. Like, let's just go do it. You make good money. Like, what are you waiting for? And then as that progressed, I realized that our clients, like as I got older, so did they, and their lives progressed. And so now we have a few different kind of like dream client avatars, which are still those like now they're not even as much single because single people can't really afford to buy with interest rates. So now we see those first time buyers are within a year of their wedding, either before or after, like they just got engaged and they're getting married next summer, or they got married this summer and now like the wedding is over and they're ready to commit to the next project of buying. So that's our first avatar is first time buyers, usually single or usually engaged or within a year of their wedding. Um, Same, usually the women are the ones kind of driving the ship for my
Mhm.
clients. And then the next one is that same person 5, 6 years down the line. Now they have 1 to 2 kids or a dog. They really want a backyard. They want a little bit more space. They have 2 people who have to work from home now. So it's really like one overarching avatar with a few different subsets at different life stages. And so we can speak to all of those through marketing and really, we'll get into this, like create events that they want to come to and more importantly, bring their friends.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And kind of towards the end of that, what I heard was life events make people move.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what's important about that, like most people's avatar is not going to be professional women. So, what stage are you in, and what are all of your friends like? Thinking through your favorite clients from the past couple years, have you met them at a school event, a church event, maybe you were a teacher prior to real estate, and all of your friends are still in that school environment. So, what do like your friends have in common? Because Rory Vaden says you're most powerfully positioned to help the person you once were. So your ideal client is typically either who you are now or who you were a few years ago.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, so something we mentioned the other day, and you mentioned earlier on top of this call, you've been open about being in 6 figures of debt. $150,000 is, or yeah, no joke. So I want to ask, how did you turn that around, and still build your business to, where it is that today? And what was that mind shift that you had?
Yeah, it was really coming to KW. And so on my first day at Keller Williams in January of 2018, the OP was walking me through the office, the typical office tour, and she said, and I'll never forget, this company will change your life if you let it. And I had no idea what that meant at the time, but now I know after diving into coaching, training, systems, models, that like if you really do dig into that, then that is how your life changes. It's nothing overnight, but when I look back on the last 5 years, my life is totally different than it was, fall of 2019 or 2020. So yeah, in May of 2019, a guy in our office started a one thing accountability group. He later became a one thing coach, and he walked us through the entire one thing process. So if you haven't revisited that book in a while, it's a great one to come back to. I'm actually going to the One Thing Summit in November, and he really helped us see, like, in the seven circles of different aspects of your life, like what is the one thing that's going to make those someday goals easier or necessary. And for me, it came down to two sort of points of focus that would make everything else easier and necessary, and they were not business related at
Mm-hmm.
all. So I realized that I needed to get control of my finances. And I turned 40 in April of 2020. So this was about like 11 months prior to my 40th birthday. And I was like, I really want to lose 40 pounds before my 40th birthday. And I felt like by getting control of my health and finances, everything else would kind of fall into place. And so the two the thing that both of those had in common was I really had to get honest at that point about where I was. So I stepped on the scale for probably the first time in like 6 months, and I pulled the debt and things that I owed from a lot of different areas and put it all in one spreadsheet, which I had also never done. And that was like so scary to me because it turned out to be 172,000. Um, so it was May, and I had extended my 2018 taxes to October. So I still owed all the taxes from 2018. Spring of 2019 had started out strong, so I also owed taxes from that. I still had 100,000 in student loans and also like probably 20 or 30,000 in credit card debt. So it just was like all these things that on their own, student loans, it's like that's nothing to be ashamed of, but it just I knew that that was holding my business back because at the time I did like, or 2019, I ended up doing 30 transactions. So I was, you know, the business was on paper and on social media looking great, but I had to tread water or just like paddle so quickly underneath the water to make all these things work because all of this debt was holding me back. So fast forward to March of 2020, I had gone to family reunion, had zero under contract in February, still had zero under contract when the pandemic was hitting on like March 16th, March 17th. And my 40th birthday was now like a month away. And the debt at that time was down to like 100,000 because I had like quickly paid off all the taxes, um, paid off the credit cards, but this panic really started to set in because I had nothing under contract and I was living
Mm-hmm.
alone in this like studio apartment that I loved. It was in a great location in Chicago, but I don't know, like as everyone's fear started hitting, I was like, what am I going to do? So I ended up moving home with my parents 2 weeks before my 40th birthday, March 30th of 2020. And by that point, I did have a few deals under contract, including my biggest one ever to date. So like I had a $2 million buyer. Yes, thank you. I've had a couple 2 million, they're all right around the same, but that was like up until that point, I had never had
Mm-hmm.
like one $50,000 paycheck and have had very few since then. And so by March 30th, I knew that if I just moved home with my parents, we all thought it was going to be a lot shorter than it was. I could just get a reset. So, like, put every penny that I made that spring into the debt, and then, like, I could just start fresh. And
Mm-hmm.
that gave me this big, like, exhale. I just moved home. My parents loved having me there, actually. We were just like buddies.
They
And
all.
yeah, it was fun. Um, and it- I, so I paid off a lot of the debt by July of 2020. I had one student loan left. It was just over $27,000. And I got a call from a friend who was an attorney. I had met someone at an open house like before I even came to KW, so like in 2017, referred her to my attorney friend for a personal injury case. It was like a slip and fall. She hurt her shoulder. My friend called and said, "Hey, I, I didn't even remember doing this, like the referral barely." She was like, "Hey, I have a referral check for you. Where should I send it?" And I was like, "Oh, great. Congrats on settling the case." Like in my mind, this was a $3,000, like
Mm-hmm.
real estate referral check. It turned out to be $27,777, which was wild. So I was able to pay off, moved home in March of 2020. By July 4th, I had paid off the remaining 100,000. So I think it really showed me that by taking massive action, I could, I was like showing the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, like that I was committed to the process. And I, like, the universe rewarded me for that. And now I've kind of used that sort of like taking massive action, point of no return decision many times to just sort of like keep things moving.
I love that. That gives me goosebumps. You told us on Wednesday and you told us today. I still get goosebumps from that. So, you
I
know,
do too.
the,
Manifestation
the,
at its finest, like,
exactly, exactly. I mean, it kind of sounds like too that you had a goal and that helped focus the goal. Or yeah, the focus was towards that goal.
the one thing process really helped because I didn't even have a goal of paying off, May of 2019. I didn't think that I would pay it off just a year later. Like, in my mind, that maybe the 5-year goal was like paying off all the debt. But I think going through that process of figuring out, okay, what are those 5-year goals or 10, the someday goals that seem so far down the line, and just having like a little bit of a vision of what I wanted my life to look like. And that was healthy, debt-free, like just
Mhm.
a more aligned life and business. And now 5 years later, like, that's still the vision. It's changed a little bit, but I think that process really helped me hone like what I wanted my life to feel like, and that was more security and more like health and wellness. And then I took it back to the two things that would do that in the moment or like, right away were losing 40 pounds, which I did, and then gained some of it back over the pandemic, but not lost it again.
COVID, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It's all a journey. That's the point.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, the ebbs and flows. So I want to know, and I'm sure everybody does as well, just what the power of of micro events that you put on. So, sometimes it's not the big events, but it's the micro events and the little moments that can change us. So can you share one or two micro events that shape the course of your journey?
Yeah. Um, so at the same time in like 2018, 2019, as I was getting really serious about my goals and my health, I was also, as we talked about earlier, getting super specific on who I wanted to help. So really honing in on like exactly who that person or women in my case were.
Mhm.
And so I started taking the events that I was already going to and turning them into something that I knew these women would really want to go to. So it started out super small, like probably a quarterly event at just a cool place with about 10 people. Um, and the first one was at actually one of the first really cool ones was a headshot event with 3 different photographers who kind of all, I think, donated their time. And the lender that I was working with found a space. And so we just had like 20 women who all could just do like a quick photo pop up, whether it's for their LinkedIn photo, Hinge, whatever they wanted to use it for. And
Yep.
it was just a great example of recognizing what these women would want and what would draw them in, and then having them, bring a friend.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
yeah, I think for me, I think I hear events and I remember sitting, at family reunion and mega camp, like people talking about these giant events where there were 100 people and it cost $10,000. And I was like, I clearly have no money and I
Hmm.
don't really want to talk to 100 people because I'm a true introvert. So I just decided, like, I'm going to scale it back to who are the VIPs that I really want to come, that I want to meet more of their friends, and what are a few things that like they might want to do. So now I see that for women, and this is for families as well, like getting their hands dirty. So wreath making, mixology, terrarium making, anything, any like craft, vision boarding. Um, it has to be kind of an experience that not just like a drink ticket, because I don't drink anymore, but even when I did, like I wasn't going to drive 20 minutes in traffic to just get like two, we all get lender invitations to go to a happy hour, and it's like, well, I'd rather just go get drinks with my friends. I'm not going to like
Mhm.
fight traffic and parking and all the things. So I really wanted it to be something where they were excited to come. They felt like they were getting something of value, and they, could, uh, I keep saying it, like bring a friend. So that's
Yeah.
really the goal of these, is to identify your top VIPs, and then instead of asking them who do they know that wants to buy or sell, who do you know that wants to come to a wreath making event, or come mix mocktails or cocktails with us. And so that's really helped, I think, knowing who I wanted to serve and who I was already serving, and then seeing the things on Instagram or just around town that I knew that they would want to do. I just started putting those in place.
I think that's huge. And, every agent goes, hey, do you know somebody looking to buy or sell? But not every agent goes, hey, bring a friend to my event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
The funny thing is that they bring people who they do know will want to buy or sell. So I do, have a few, it seems like the clients are like 10 years younger than me, or around my age, or maybe my parents' age. So, if I have like the mixology event, to me, it's a little bit more for like those younger 30s crowd.
Mhm.
So I'll like start inviting some of them, and then they'll, I'll say like, hey, feel free to bring a friend. They'll respond, oh, I'm going to invite Lauren. She just got married. I know they want to like buy in the next year. So they tell me like, I'm inviting someone who might be a good client for you. I
Yeah,
didn't have to like train them to do that. They just
yeah.
wanted to give back to me that way.
Whether you're VIPs,
Yeah.
I love that. And you mentioned a little bit, and I don't know if you want to get into it, but you said you're introverted, and there's a lot of us agents out there who are also introverted. Can you tell me a little bit about how you overcame that, or what you do to kind of push that away and get yourself out there?
I A few different ways. So the events have been a big one, mainly because I need something on the calendar to hold me accountable to reaching out to people. So if I put a, I keep talking about mixology because that's the one on the calendar for December 3rd. Um, and so if I put that on the calendar and have partnered with a lender, or in this case, I'm partnering with a financial planner to put it on, then I'm not going to let her down. And so the events work well for me because yes, I'm an introvert, but also like I'm a people pleaser. So when I like have something on the calendar, I'm not going to waste money by not following through. So I kind of overcame, I don't even know if I would say overcame being an introvert. I set up my business in a way that like I'm not doing 100-person events because
Yeah,
I don't want to mingle that much. Um, the events are 2-hour cocktail parties on a Wednesday or Thursday evening. I'm home by 9, and they can go out afterward if they want to, but it's really like set up so that I can have great conversations with the 15 or 20 people that are there, and then I can go home.
yeah, I love that. People call me a golden retriever, so I really don't know about the introverted thing, but that's okay. So,
Well, I
yeah,
think that's what kind of the point, like what I think is really important. I wouldn't have lasted in real estate if I hadn't figured out ways to make the business work for my personality.
yeah,
And that has been events, that has been just like forcing myself to do lead generation because I've like committed to hosting this event that I'm spending some money on. So,
mhm,
or, my sister is a showing partner on our team. She has 4 kids. She's a teacher. She lives out in the suburbs an hour away. And, she doesn't want to, all of these events are very low cost, but we're trying to find more that are like even no cost. So I just did a clothing exchange in the city, which was super fun at um, we partnered with like a vintage store and a home organizer, and they invited people. But now we're going to redo that event in the suburbs where my sister is at her house. She moved into a new place a year ago that her friends are excited to see. So the other one that she does that we love is called Cooking Club. And I think this is like a TikTok thing, but
Mm.
basically they choose a different cookbook every month and everyone makes one dish out of that cookbook. So I joined when it was at her house and it was the Ina Garden cookbook and the food was amazing. And it was just a great conversation of like 10 women who they are getting together monthly. Um, and they are talking about everything. But now, my sister will be that like go-to realtor for them when they have a need or they know someone just because she's developed that relationship in a way that's, it really isn't all about real estate. It's about getting to know the other moms, but she has stayed more committed to it, I think, than she otherwise would have,
Hmm.
because she sees the benefit down the line.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. So, one thing I want to talk about is your daily routine, just because I think it's awesome, where you're at right now versus where your business is.
Yeah.
So in our call, you mentioned you were working from, not from where you're living. You were working from Colorado right now. So I wanted to know, and I wanted to ask, what does a typical day look like for you? And are there any non-negotiable habits, that keep you grounded and successful?
Yeah, I just was at a retreat in Colorado. That's why I'm here. And she talked about the concept. This was for like perimenopause and menopause, but of base camp and establishing like your non-negotiables. So I've really been thinking about this a lot. And the crazy thing is, they're not in my business, they're for my health. And it's just like a 2-mile walk a day, just eating pretty clean and um, journaling every day. So I would say those are probably my three non-negotiables. I, like you said, am working from Boulder, or
Hmm.
currently I'm in Boulder. I've been in Colorado for 2 weeks. And I think we can talk a little bit about like I don't have a huge team. Right now it's just me and a showing partner and a profile transaction coordinator who is like an outside, you know, person, not on the team. Um, and I've been able to make the remote work because I am still working here and the showing partner knows that I'm like, responding to clients and still doing a lot. But when I'm kind of remote, I'm not, I can kind of cut things off at like 5 o'clock and go
Hmm.
for a walk here in the mountains rather than, in the city. So, um, I I don't know that I ever really thought being able to work remotely. I'm trying to think of how many. So I was in Palm Springs in January, in Barbados in March for like 3 weeks. So probably over the course of this year, I've worked remotely for almost 10 weeks. And
That's
I,
awesome.
yeah, but you don't have to have a big team to do that. You just have
Hmm.
to like I did it for the first time 2 years ago after listening to Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He wrote the book 10x is easier than 2x and a few others. And he talks about a point of no return decision. And it helped me realize that like I've had so many point of no return decisions that I didn't know that's what it was in the moment, like getting into real estate and moving home with my parents, um, giving up alcohol, and all of those things. There had been a lot of buildup to it and a lot of angst, but then once I made the decision, I never went back. And so in order to work remotely, I kind of channeled that and just booked the trip to Barbados for 6 weeks and was like, I'm just gonna go. And it was super stressful leading up to it. But once I got there, it's like, I've got to figure it out and utilize the people in my office or whoever I have. And clients don't really notice actually. Like they notice that I'm not there for the actual showing, but I have in Barbados, they noticed a little bit more because it was like an international phone dial. But I got around that with like FaceTime and a few other things or
Nice.
called them. But right now we closed two this week and put another two under contract, and they have don't really know that I'm in Colorado.
Yeah. Well, so it sounds like you took that leap of faith and it panned out.
I really think a lot about that idea of the point of no return decision, because most of the time we're not, I get in my head so much that I'm going to overthink every single decision and want to have it all planned out. Like, who exactly is going to cover for these clients every moment when I'm gone? And if I had all that planned out, I would never do it. So I think, yes, the purpose of business is to fund your truly perfect life. And I think thinking about my goals for next year, I don't want to grow the business. I want to keep it
Hmm.
exactly where I'm at right now at 50 to 60 transactions and really focus on profitability, because being out in the mountains, I know that this is kind of my like dream life. And so I'm not going to move here this fall, which I would love to do, but I can put 2 month, or just 1 month at a time and grow that to 2 months. And so um, that really is, I think, I've been trying to think about like, what do I want? And so often we have no idea what we want until we actually start
Hmm.
doing it and trying things. And then maybe I don't necessarily want to spend 2 or 3 months at the beach again because it was like a little bit too small for me. But now that I'm in the mountains, that feels like a better fit. So feeling like, yeah, that point of no return, I just had to like get out and actually try things rather than staying in my head.
That's a, I love it. Point of no return. A wild concept to think about.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so in real estate, you're gonna have your ups and downs and your roller coasters, like just like in life. And I'm just curious, what was one of the toughest business struggles you've had? And then what kind of habit or mindset shift helped you get through it? You kind of mentioned earlier, but I'd love to go a little bit deeper on it.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to grow a team in order to work remotely more. So I brought people on about 18 months ago, start of 2024. So I had a buyer agent. I had eventually had a director of ops, a marketing and events coordinator, and in-house transaction coordinator. And I realized that because all of the business was still from my sphere, I brought on too many people. And I also just, the profit wasn't there. Like I want to keep a fear-based business. I don't want to figure out how to bring in a bunch of cold leads just to feed like a buyer's agent and all these other people. So a couple months ago, I disbanded pretty much all of that and went back to just a showing partner and me. And I just came back to the realization that being a highly leveraged individual agent is by far like one of the most profitable. I'm sure I'm more profitable than like the big teams in my office. And
Hmm.
it's a little bit more work on my end because I'm still like negotiating with all of the clients, but by having a strong showing partner, I am still able to work remotely. So it was like another example of, I thought this is what I wanted and that it was going to help me get to the remote work that, I'm kind of like aspiring to do. And I had to try it to see that like actually this other path was a much better fit for me.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Um, So with that one being said, I do have a question for you based on the community that you've built and just collaboration in general. So I mean, you've built more than a business. You've built a community with all the women that you worked with, and I'm just curious how much of that came from your intentional strategy versus how much it came from just following your heart and following your gut.
Probably, yeah, I think 50-50 actually.
Okay.
It's probably also the community was born out of, yes, like everything that we've talked about, kind of doing lead generation in a way that works for me. And then I saw how much people were getting out of it. They loved connecting with, if I'm inviting a lot of women in their early 30s, now some of them are friends and hang out outside of these events. And um, so I think post-pandemic, people are really craving in-person experiences. And so I love seeing how much people get out of it. And now I'm kind of building. our brand as much about the community as about the real estate. So real estate's always going to be front and center, but we're working on getting the events even more consistent and just continuing to build that community. And also, like I now have a vision of building a community of women agents because I think so many of us are really feeling exactly how I feel, which is I love real estate, but I don't necessarily want to be like running around doing it all the time. So I don't know exactly what I want, but I'm trying a bunch of things to see what it's like. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of people, men and women, just are feeling like this goalpost was set here and that's what I was going for because I thought it would give me, you know, whatever vision of success like had been laid out. And now that I wouldn't say I'm there, but it's maybe not even in sight, but like now that I know the reality of that, I'm like, that
Hmm.
I don't want that at all. So, and I think I've had like 5 conversations this week with other women who feel the exact same way. So I don't know what that community looks like right now, but it is focused on health and an aligned business and experiences and just bringing people together that are in a really similar place.
Yeah, beautiful. And you mentioned, success and that you don't know if you're quite where you want to be yet, but how do you yourself measure success?
That's
Is
changing a lot for me. Yeah. I was the top individual agent for the Mid-America region for like 3 years. And I y- tried building a team, didn't work out. And now I think I'm looking at success as I think I'm actually going to measure it next year based on profit because I do have this vision of being able to work more remotely. And I don't need more units in order to do that. And I don't need more units
Mhm.
to meet my profit goal. So I think if I can continue to kind of like get things more consistent in the current business and get it's already profitable, but just kind of like maybe profit isn't the right example, but like focus on investing and building sort of passive income or investments that are going to continue to feed that like life that
Yeah.
a more aligned life.
Oh, yeah.
Still trying to articulate that.
And you mentioned consistency. Do you find a struggle with staying consistent, or is your mindset so much so where you're like, nah, consistency is easy for me. I'm perfect.
Not at all. It is not easy. I think I have not been diagnosed ADHD, but I definitely have that. And I I think the other thing for me is, and it kind of ties to the consistency. I Gretchen Rubin has a great framework of abstainer versus moderator, and learning this about myself was kind of a game changer in terms of habits. And so, an abstainer is someone like so I give the example of my parents all the time. My mom can buy, she's a moderator. She can buy chocolate covered pretzels and she literally eats like one little pretzel for dessert every night and they can sit on the shelf and she's
Hmm.
fine. Like she is not tempted to have the whole, container of them like I would be.
Oh yeah.
My dad is an abstainer, and so he will eat the entire box of Triscuits or what wheat thins or whatever if they're in the house. So my mom literally like hides them from him in the pantry behind all the other things because she knows he won't go looking for them. So I'm much more of an abstainer. Like I've now gone alcohol free. I stopped drinking Diet Coke. I recently stopped
No.
drinking child. I know Diet Coke was the hardest one out of all of these. It's tough because I drink like 5 a day. Um,
What?
and but it goes along with that consistency because and the idea of putting an event on the calendar it's all or nothing. So I'm either
Mhm.
really dialed in or I'm not. And so I need to put constraints in place to stay dialed in. And now I'm getting a little bit better about what those need to be and asking for like bringing on a showing partner who can do the running around so that I can stay more focused on getting the event set up and getting the invitations out. So yeah.
I love that. And I wanted to share a quote that we had earlier, which kind of pertains to what we're talking about too, which Kennedy actually mentioned, and I think it's great. And she mentioned that Hudson Moore said it to us, and you're born looking like your parents, and you die looking like your choices. And
Such
he
a great
paused, right? And he said again, you're born looking like your parents, and you die looking like your choices. And if you stay consistent and make the right choices, stop drinking that Diet Coke. I don't know if I'll ever stop eating chips, but maybe one
Me
day.
neither.
You'll hit your goals. So I have two more topics I want to go over, and then we'll open it up to questions. But my first one is, some agents that may be on this call, some agents in general are stuck right now. And for an agent listening who feels stuck, financially, physically, or mentally, what would you tell them about making changes and sticking with it?
I think movement creates momentum. So a big part of the micro events for me, as I've said a few times now, is just getting something on the calendar. And so if you're feeling stuck, like I don't even want to, get people together, I'm not feeling my best right now. What I always do in that situation is just pick something that's already going on in my community and invite a few people to it. So whether it's I went to like a movie opening and the director was there and I invited a few friends and they bought their own tickets, like I wasn't even paying for this. Or sometimes I'll see something like a candle making class or just something that looks kind of fun that I don't really want to do by myself, but I know other people would come to. And I'll just text. Halloween is a great one. There's like haunted cemetery tours near us. And so there's now's a great time of year where there's going to be things that are happening in your community that you could just say, hey, I'm thinking of buying tickets to this. Anyone want to go? And have them bring one of their friends. So if you invite 2 or 3 people and they each bring, a friend or two, then you're getting 5 or 6 people together. That's going to be a great group and you already know half of them. And it's not going to feel like an event. They could buy their own tickets, or you could just buy 6 and say, hey, I've got 6 tickets to this cemetery tour. Anyone want to join? Um, Whichever way you do it, but that's just sometimes the push that I need to
Mhm.
like actually get out and get around other people.
Oh, thank you for that. Hopefully, somebody hears that and changes their life. So my last question for you before we open it up to questions is, Meg, what's next for you? What's your next big goal? Or what's your next micro habit, or not micro habit? You know, what's your next micro event that you're hosting? What's next for you?
Yeah. So micro habit, I did just stop with chai lattes so now I just hit 30 days on that. So I'm excited about it. And
Nice, congrats.
yeah, to your last question, if someone does want to change a habit, I think just trying it for 30 days. So like I started with a 30-day break from alcohol. I felt so much better that I just continued it to 60 and then 100. And then you know, it was like just part of my life after like 4 or 5 months. So for me now, strength training is going to be a big one when I get home.
You're
And
gonna get swole.
exactly, yes, something like that. But really, it's reevaluating the goals in my business to focus on investments and profit rather than like growing to a certain number of transactions or anything like that.
I love it. We're gonna be cheering you on, and we can't wait to follow up.
Awesome.
Um, yeah. So Deborah posted in the comment here. She just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. She's also an introvert who has a tendency to overthink things. I also come from a legal background, so your story is very inspiring.
I love it. Well, yes,
Yeah.
all of the overthinkers can thrive in this industry, which was not something
Mhm.
that I thought was possible.
Yeah.
I'm looking for my Instagram to put it in the chat.
Oh, yes, definitely. And while she's looking for that, everybody come off mute and feel free to ask a question, or if you want to raise your hand, I can call on you. But feel free.
Hey, McKenna.
Yeah.
Brad wasn't calling on me. Well, I just want to say, as somebody who just recently graduated college herself and has some debt that she's tackling, I really appreciated you sharing the honesty that not everybody's going to be able to live the life they want and pay it off, without the stress of it. So it was very relieving, I will say, on my end to hear somebody open up about how it weighs you down. It would not only weighs you down, but your business down, and it feels like your future. So.
Yeah, I definitely sacrificed by moving in with my parents. I still, you know, bought things along the way. Like it wasn't like I was
Right, of course.
totally sacrificing, but I loved Dave Ramsey's debt snowball approach. So like
Okay.
there was one credit card that was like $2,300, paid that off right away. And then, so just instead of taking the ones that had the biggest, like interest rate, I took the smallest amount and plugged away at that because I needed to see those wins along the way. And then for those that own their own businesses, Profit First was like a huge game changer for me. So I would check out that book as well.
I like seeing those little wins.
Yeah.
Karen, we'll get to your question in a second. I saw Rebecca raised her hand.
We're a duo, so it's Lori's question.
Okay.
I love it.
So I don't know if you mentioned this, but I really like when I heard you say you found your niche to focus on.
Yep.
It started small, just 10 people, and because I'm a huge introvert, but don't put me in a crowd. I'll stand against.
I love it.
So there's lots of niches that, that we can do. There's so many, and there's so many that I love. How did you go about like checking off the ones like this wouldn't work for me? Was there a strategy that you could recommend?
That's a great question. I really looked at who was in my network already. So I was already communicating with them. I was already helping them. I just wanted to create more events to meet their friends. So what are some of the ones you're considering?
So first time home buyers or new home buyers, single moms, I'm both.
I love
So
it.
like close to my heart. I like to volunteer for foster families. I'm just starting to volunteer with Rocket Phonics. It's teaching kids how to read that are below grade level. So those types of things that involve youth are super close to my heart, and helping people with home ownership because I'm still trying to do that. So I understand the
I
struggle,
love it.
and I'm a single mom. So I'm, a little all over the place. As
You should check out Bridget Potterton. She has done some things with James Shaw over on his pivot page, and she focuses on the divorce niche, and she has classes around it. But what I love about like a B2B niche is so she's really networking with other people who serve divorced families or, couples getting divorced. So she's networking with attorneys and like, you could serve the single moms within that. But it's why that could be strategic is it's a couple different transactions potentially. So, it's like a sell plus a buy. Or just doing the single mom, like hosting a ton of events and seminars for single moms sounds amazing. And because I think there is that sense of empowerment, like they probably feel defeated. How am I ever going to do this on my own? But they really want that sense of like taking care of their family. And so you can really speak to that like sense of empowerment and like, this is realistic for you. Might not be in the next 6 months, but let's put the pieces in play. That's a longer term strategy for you, but you can start doing things now that really attract them to you. And there's a lot of people you could host events with to serve that community as well. So those are all great
Yeah.
ones.
And Jason Abrams mentioned once that he worked with like divorce lawyers, and he got a lot of business and referred people to them. So that's a good point. So we have Karen asked, do you use a lot of social media to reach out to potential clients?
I don't. So social media is not one of our lead gen pillars. I love social media. I love Instagram, but I consider it more of a almost like online business card. It's like a presence for branding, but the two key pillars for lead generation for us are our email newsletter and our events. So we really keep in touch with people that way. And I look at social media as kind of an extra. So if you're not comfortable on social media or really aren't doing it at all, I don't think that's going to stop you from having a great business.
Thank you for that. And
People
Kelly
build their
said,
business on it, and that's a totally different niche. So
definitely a different niche, that's for sure. And Kelly said, I like that you shared kind of going backwards, moving back in with your parents in order to move forward. That was definitely a positive move, even though it probably didn't feel like it at the time. When you said that, she also sent some hearts when you were talking about that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, I think, goes to that point of no return decision that
Yeah.
I should have moved in with them like after law school and not lived like paycheck to paycheck for 10 years prior to doing that. Or even like, I clearly wasn't even living paycheck to paycheck because I was accruing more debt. But so I think the first step is really kind of getting honest, that one thing process of, what is the thing that's going to make everything else easier and necessary. For a long time, I didn't want to acknowledge that like giving up alcohol would make everything else easier. But then I saw a huge change within 3 weeks. So it's often like the thing that we least want to do that's going to make the biggest impact. So yeah, it can be hard.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Anybody else have any questions for Meg?
Hey, Savannah.
I I don't really have a question, but I think your story is beautiful because you planned to be you were doing law and then you got here. So it was really like in my opinion, everything happens for a reason and that was God's plan,
Exactly.
I
Yes.
think. And I really liked how you mentioned about like the ADHD because I was diagnosed with it when I was in 3rd grade. So it's like sometimes it really sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, and I think now that you, have developed tools throughout your entire life to deal with that, you can figure out like maybe social media, like that may or may not be a great lead gen tool for you, or like events are a great tool for me because I just have to put the event on the calendar and then it's like, all right, my next goal is to get 20 people there or whatever. So kind of, I think I've unknowingly almost like developed ways to chunk things down in a way that like works with that personality. And so I'm sure you have a ton of tools and ways to do that. And so just thinking through like how can you set yourself up for success, basically.
Yeah.
Thanks for
A
sharing.
good point, Savannah. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Savannah's a rock star.
I love it.
All right. Anybody else?
Thank you all so much for joining. This was
Yeah.
so much fun. Hope to connect
Yeah,
on
thank you.
Instagram or reach out anytime if I can help you find your niche or with event ideas. I've got a lot of ideas. So
Good to know. We'll definitely be reaching out to you. Thank you so much for your time, Meg. We really appreciate it. And we're rooting for you. You're going to kick butt. And if you need anything from us, please feel free to reach out.
awesome. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of the day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See y'all.
Bye.